a wild bird sing. You can hear hunger crying out. A sonic echo that leaves no room for doubt. All the shots bring it back to what it's not. Make a move, do we do? As the world cries tears in our hands, are we all part of a bigger plan? All the shots bring it back to what it's not. Deepest oceans become petri enough. Empty spaces, time to rust and dust. There's no wonder left for us to love. No warmth or shelter, just satellites above. All the shots bring it back to what it's not. Make a move, do we do? As the world cries tears in our hands, are we all part of a bigger plan? All the shots bring it back to what it's not.
The Rafa Racing Club Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain heads this weekend to Snetterton. It's races 5 and 6 of what has already proved to be a very competitive championship, with Sebastian Job coming here not only as the championship leader but as a double race winner. And he comes here on the back of 2 victories yesterday at a virtual Hockenheim in the Super Cup equivalent. Welcome then to the Snetterton 200 layout. It is fast, it is a circuit that here, particularly at the old S's, engenders overtaking. David Addison and Paul Smith ready to call the action of 2 races, Paul, and qualifying, which as ever is going to be short, sharp and dramatic at just 10 minutes long.
It certainly will be dramatic, that is for sure. I mean, we've been seeing how close these drivers have been time-wise throughout the opening 2 rounds of this championship. So it's going to be interesting to see if anybody can take Sebastian Job's pole position crown off him, because he really has been dominant in qualifying.
One of the things we tend to talk about in real-world Porsche racing is how useful it is to be in the car all the time. You know, if you take people in real-world Super Cup, they do a domestic program as well. And here you've got Sebastian Job, if you like, doing the same in the virtual world, combining Super Cup with this national championship. So even though it's not a car, it's the sim, but he's always got that setup in mind, and the more mileage he's doing is clearly paying dividends.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, his start to the year has been tremendous, as it has for Luke McEwen as well, it must be said. You know, he's had a good start to the year as well. So seat time is paramount when it comes to these types of series, and being able to get yourselves to be competitive throughout the championship.
Let's have a quick word about Ham as well. Luke Pennington has been the man to beat there. Just a quick reminder, though, that this is what we have. Qualifying set to get underway in a moment. 10 minutes. That will determine the grid for race 1. 25 minutes. And then for race 2, you take the race 1 result, but you reverse the top 6. And, of course, the majority of the points in Pro are on that first race, because it's set from what you might call a natural grid, and to reward the pole position driver in each class, there are those 2 bonus points for pole position. And Sebastian Job has been the driver to take both Pro class poles, Luke Pennington both AM class poles thus far. Now, Paul, free practice has been going on over the last few minutes, and only at the very end did Sebastian Job start to really show his hand.
Yeah, he's gone and stuck himself at the top of the standings in free practice. But of course, free practice doesn't mean anything. But if that's an indication, then it could well be the Sebastian Job show again.
Well, indeed, the qualifying session is set to get underway in a few moments. This is how we look in the championship. Sebastian Job already 11 points up on Luke McEwen, who is also now third in Super Cup. And then third, Peter Berryman. We'll come back to him in a second. He's ahead of Josh Thompson, Will Chadwick and Graham Carroll within Pro. In AM, it is all about Luke Pennington at the moment because he has just been unstoppable. Scott Mokes and then Dan Martin doing the chasing. Crofton Woodhatch, who was good at Silverstone, not quite so fortunate at Donington, is fourth ahead of Tim Darracott and then Adam Holloway. I said we'd come back to Peter Berryman. Let us do just that. He, Paul, is a man with happy memories of this configuration of Snetterton from the last time the championship raced on it.
Yeah, back in 2022, he got pole position. He also took the race win in the opening race of that day. So he's got previous here. He can certainly do a job. And I mean, I can't forget that 2022 season where he and his teammate worked together, and it was on the last lap of the very last race that Pete Berryman helped Kevin Ellis Jr. win the championship that day. And it was Kevin who got the second race victory that day at Snetterton 200. So it's a good hunting ground for the Apex Racing team.
Now, a quick reminder, as you can see the cars on track qualifying, that everybody has the same base car, 510 horsepower 992 version of the 911 GT3 Cup. But how you set the car up is going to be absolutely imperative, and how quickly you're able to adapt to it. And in 10 minutes, there aren't really going to be many opportunities to recover from a mistake or getting stuck in traffic. So really, as we have seen in the previous two events, pressure's on, isn't it?
Yeah, and of course, with the setup of this car, they are actually very limited with what they can set up on the car because, as you said, the base car is the same. You can maybe tweak the brake bias to how you prefer it yourself to maybe help yourself that way. But apart from that, you're pretty much stuck with what setup you have. So everybody is quite an even footing. It's a good way of getting to see who actually is the best driver on the grid.
Now, Jack Sedgwick, first driver to really come across the line and offer up any kind of pace. He had a mixed time at Donington last time out with a 10th and a 7th. But in terms of people that we need to be looking for to fight back in the championship, well, Will Chadwick has got to be one. 2 retirements last time out. That was a disaster, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a complete write-off for Will. That is fair to say. It was just not his day. Oh, there is Will, by the way. And, yeah, he just did not have a good time at it at all. And it all stemmed from qualifying. He was not able to get a qualifying time in, and therefore he started at the back of the grid, and that just puts you in the firing zone for any sorts of incidents.
Now, what about Graham Carroll as another driver to watch this weekend? 14th, 9th, 4th, 3rd. That's the race result sequence, going in the right direction, and was looking pretty good in the free practice session we had. Now, we've only got 7 minutes of qualifying remaining. Adam Holloway has set the target time on a 1:13.4, but a 68 really is where we need to be going back to 2022.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned Graham Carroll there. I mean, that team, both himself and Matt Emery, they did struggle at the opening round at Silverstone, but they seem to be moving in the right direction, as you say. What they can do here now, the question is for them, can they then continue that forward progression up the grid? Because really, if they're wanting to be competing in this championship, they need to now be getting some big points at this stage.
Adam Holloway currently topping the times. Read into that what you will, bearing in mind that we've still got over half the session to go. But this suggests that maybe Luke Pennington might have a little bit more opposition this weekend. Another man to watch, potentially Alexander Davidson, who we had on the front row of the grid after qualifying at Donington. Didn't have a great first race, but that then put him on the front row for the reverse grid race. So he was there, not necessarily with the race result that he wanted, but he did salvage a second place in race 2.
Yeah, and he showed that he can have that pace out there. He's relatively new to the series, and he is a quick driver. He's somebody in that World Sim Racing organisation who has been there for a while in that team. It's got a cohesive unit of drivers, so they're all working together to try and support each other to move forward. Of course, Eric Grove, his teammate, is right in front of him right now, and this is the problem with qualifying here, because they're starting off with the fuel that they need to take through qualifying. They're all trying to burn off that fuel whilst also looking after their tyres.
and getting in the way of Alexander Davidson there as he came on to Bentley Straight. The Snetterton 200 layout is about as close as you get to the most recent incarnation of Snetterton, except that what used to be Sear that brought you straight on to Revit Straight is now Wilson, and it's still a hairpin, but then if you like with a sort of chicane at the end, because you go through the right and then you've got to flick left onto the straight, so it breaks up the flow a little bit, but other than that it is pretty similar to the nature of Snetterton prior to the inclusion of the 300 with that paperclip style infield. Right, time is marching on, only 4.5 minutes to go. Graham Carroll at the top of the times.
Yes, it's a 68.6 for him. So he's setting that benchmark now as Graham and his teammate Matt Emery right up there with him as well. Here's Sebastian Job, though, through Riches, heading towards Wilson then. He's not really got anybody in front of him right now, although that car just gets out the way. But I will have distracted Sebastian slightly through the hairpin, and there you see that chicane that you were talking about, David. You got a little lump over where the 300 layout comes on as well, so you've got to be careful that the car doesn't get unsettled on power.
Sebastian Job doing a really good job, though. 14th at the moment. He's not going to be 14th at the end of the lap, that's for sure. Peter Berryman, pole last time the cars raced on this circuit, only 11th, so there's work to be done as coming out of the Brundle and Nelson sequence, or the S's in old money. Sebastian Job now through Bomb Hole, up towards Coram. Really fast part of the circuit this, and you've got to be brave to get everything out of the car. He does so, gets through traffic as well, and then hard on the brakes down to the end of the lap. It is Graham Carroll from David Williams from Matt Emery. Now Peter Berryman responds and goes second. And where are we going to put Sebastian Job at the end of this? Luke McEwen now goes to the very top of the times. Job heads up towards the timing line. He will break the beam. That should go fastest of all. Yes, he does. So Sebastian Job goes top, 68.514. Not quite as quick as Peter Berryman from 22.
Yeah, I mean, the conditions out there, I think, are a little bit hotter than they were back in 22. The track temperature is 37 degrees, so it will not be helping them look after their tyres. And let's not forget, this qualifying session here, these drivers have got to remember, once that clock strikes 0, that is the end. You don't get to finish your lap time here. So they need to be getting on it and starting a lap with about 1:10 remaining.
Sebastian Job, but he's not the only one weaving around, having backed off on this lap. He's got a queue of cars behind him, but there are others that are still pushing. Job lets some of the traffic go. It's partly getting the fuel burnt, as you say. It's partly getting the tyres to the right temperature, but it's also trying not to get stuck in traffic with cars all around. So that bottleneck on the Bentley Straight tries to disperse. 2 more minutes to go.
Yeah, this is going to get interesting and a bit spicy as this one. Here's Nathan Tegg, who he said he was trying to get back into the competitive top-level sim racing here, and he's had a hard time of it as Nathan. He'll be hoping to change his fortunes here today, though, as he goes across the line. And Nathan does not improve his position, but does improve his time. Yeah.
Yeah, he had a pretty torrid time, as you say, at Donington with a couple of incidents, held his hands up and said, yeah, my fault, sorry. Sebastian Job pole in pro, and down to 6th has gone Peter Berryman, but look who's 7th, Luke Pennington. So yet again, top am, and yet again, by quite some margin.
I think the series administrators might be looking at and thinking, I think we've got that one wrong. Perhaps he's really on pace this year. But at the end of the day, if he's put that time in and he's put that effort in, then why doesn't he deserve to be up there in the top half of the field?
Absolutely. He's kind of becoming, if you like, the esports version of Josh Stanton, who a couple of years ago in Real World, the Carrera Cup GB, was dominant in AM. And people said, well, surely he should be pro-AM, given how well he was going. But he remained in AM for the season, dominated the championship, and then did move up last year. Right, you just got Peter Berryman across the line, but he's still only 7th, as now Luke McEwen goes to the top of the times by just 32 thousandths of a second, and we've got half a minute to go.
Sebastian Job's just about to come across the line. What can he do here? Can he get back to the top of the standings? Yes, he can! My goodness, Luke Bennett and Josh Thompson, 2 Team Redline drivers, there with him as well.
Well, he was 32 thousandths back. He's now 33 thousandths ahead, Sebastian Job. So it is, as you say, Job from Bennett, from Thompson, McEwen briefly quickest down to fourth, Graham Carroll fifth, William Chadwick, Alexander Davidson, Peter Berryman, Matt Emery, Luke Pennington is now the top 10. Checkered flag is out, and Sebastian Job has done it again. Really good effort then to be the fastest, but as I say, just by 33 thousandths of a second. So, at the end of qualifying, Sebastian Job is going to be the man on pole position. Luke Bennett alongside. Josh Thompson is going to start third, and Luke McEwen will be fourth. Graham Carroll, he's fifth on the grid, ahead of William Chadwick to round out the top six, going better here than at Donington. Alexander Davidson, though, is only seventh, and Peter Berryman, pole last time we raced on this configuration, is just eighth, ahead of Matt Emery. And then 10th, Luke Pennington, and pole yet again. 11th is Leo Garibaldi, and David Williams yo-yoed a bit. He's 12th on the grid, ahead of Gareth Higgins and then Jack Sedgwick. Eric Grove is next, ahead of Jacob Toths, then Dylan Platt and Scott Mokes. 19th will be Thomas Cope, ahead of Daniel Cofield. Then you've got Daniel Martin, and another one to watch, Crofton Woodhatch from the AM battle, ahead of pro Daniel Sedgley. And Adam Holloway back to the AMs, 24th on the grid, 25th Oliver Ettridge, and 26th, still struggling you could argue, is Nathan Tague. But that is how they're going to line up, ready for our first 25-minute race. Is that normal service then with Sebastian Job on pole? What are the surprises, Paul, if any?
What the surprises for me is Luke Bennett, Josh Thompson being able to jump Luke McEwen as well. It was a heck of a lap from Luke that he put in, but my goodness, I think that Bennett and Thompson were actually following Sebastian Job, so getting a little bit of a slipstream from him that would have helped him out. Will Chadwick, I think he'll be relieved to be in the top six after his disastrous qualifying last time out at Donington. It's going to be intriguing to see how this one goes, and well, surprise, surprise, Luke Pennington gets himself into the top 10 again. It's a service resumed for him as well.
Looks a bit Spa 24 hours-ish, doesn't it now? Lots of Porsches and headlights on in the darker setting then. We are set to go racing. Everybody rejoins the server. One by one, staggered grid, pole position on the inside, which is where that Red Bull liveried car of Sebastian Job's will be, with Luke Bennett on the outside. It is blast off, and a good getaway by Job then converts pole position into the race lead, and a handy lead indeed on the run down towards the first corner. Everybody else tries to find a gap on the inside. They dive through Riches for the first time, but Sebastian Job did exactly what he needed to do, converts pole into the lead. There is mayhem behind him, 2, 3, 4 cars off the racetrack.
Yeah, Grove, Merckx, Platt and Williams all off. That used to be a wheat field on the exit of Riches. So, luckily there's a barrier stopping them. The unfortunate part is it does damage their car quite considerably. So, yeah, Williams has decided to take the tow truck back to the pits out of that one.
The others survive, so bad race for David Williams as they come then for the first time out of the S's down towards bomb hole, and Sebastian Job, and he's got previous for doing this then, controlling the race from the front, gets pole, scorches away, and although when he has won, he's never had the most enormous of gaps. He's always, in those previous two equivalent races, Silverstone and Donington, looked strong enough and able to withstand pressure. Let's see whether he's going to get away or whether Luke Bennett can do anything about him. Luke's best thus far, fourth, 2 retirements at Donington, so he's got to bank points here.
He certainly does that. Josh Thompson, not the best of starts from third on the grid, so he's dropped down to fifth here. He'll be wanting to work his way forward, or maybe thinking the long game and thinking, right, I could get on the front row of the second race of the day, but I don't think you can think that way. If you're wanting to challenge for a championship with the extra points that are available here in this opening race, you've got to go for it now.
Absolutely, and because really there's only been Sebastian Job being consistent, the others have got to try and score big points where they're on offer. So Luke Bennett will be thinking that, no doubt. You've got in third place then Luke McEwen. He was only 10th last time out at Donington, so he's got to try and fight back. And Graham Carroll up 1 place from his grid position. He's fourth ahead of Thompson. Davidson is sixth.
Well, Thomas Cope is dropping down the order. Something's happened to him further down your field, but there you see Graham Carroll, the Scottish driver, and I tell you what, he makes me look short. He is a tall chap, is Graham, and but he is such a nice guy as well.
Yep.
Out of the rig, get him in the rig. He's an animal.
Good real-world racer as well. As the cars go through, then the margin is down. Sebastian Job at the end of lap 1 was 0.4 to the good. At the end of lap 2, he was just 0.2 of a second ahead. So Luke Bennett trying to stay with him, braking hard then for Wilson, that was Montreal, that was Sear. Flick through that little left, and then you're on to the straight. And this is what happened at the start of the race, where 3 into 1 just did not go.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a slight bump, and David Williams on the outside, innocent party and all of that, just gets sent into the wall. He seems to be one of the unluckiest drivers at the moment on the grid with how things have gone this season so far.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? There are some that are prepared to bide their time. Others try and do the overtaking when the first opportunity presents, and it doesn't always work out in their favour. Now, is Luke Bennett dropping back to the eye? Possibly. And then in third place, Luke McEwen is catching him and taking with him Graham Carroll. So we're getting perhaps now a battle pack for second, third and fourth as they head up towards the line. And further down the order, we've got Luke Pennington, only third in AM. He was leading the class, but he's fallen back behind Crofton Woodhatch and Daniel Cofield. So things are happening in AM that break the form book.
What a start for Crofton as well, it must be said. He's had a tremendous start to this race and moved to the head of AM. Great stuff for him. And now we get to see what is Luke like around the other AMs. And if I'm the other AMs, I'm trying to defend for all my life to try and keep him behind. But there goes Luke with the move down the inside. He's going to get the drive off the corner. Banger doors. That's not one way to swap paint. You know, you could have just asked for the colour code.
Well, it's worked for him. Come what may. He's got sharp elbows, Luke Pennington, and he sticks them out and he goes through, although Daniel Cofield tries to fight back on the outside. Doesn't work at the first part of the S's, but it might do on the second part. Luke Pennington gets run up the curve on exit. Everybody else trying to buy into that, and Daniel Cofield giving himself track position on the inside of bomb hole, but he hasn't got the speed to be able to go through. The fact that Luke Pennington is able to respond like this makes one feel that it was a mistake that dropped him to third in class rather than a lack of pace earlier on, and now he is being able to recover.
Oh, don't get out in the dirt though like that. That'll compromise your straight line speed down here. And Jack Sedgwick, the recovering Jack Sedgwick, he's stuck behind both of these two right now, and he'll be looking ahead thinking, come on chaps, just let me past. I want to get up with the sharp end of the field.
Yeah, Luke Pennington, as you say, running wide at the end of the lap. That's not going to necessarily help in terms of track limit dramas if they keep totting up like that. Whoops, getting all toey behind Daniel Cofield then. Jack Sedgwick, if the door won't open, he's going to try and force the door open. Daniel Martin is involved in all of that, and off the road, I'm afraid, and around after a spin goes Daniel Cofield. That, I fear, was with a little bit of help.
Yeah, I don't think so much he fell. It was more of a push by the looks of things, that just by the body language of the car. Even at this early stage of the race, I will point out, a lot of drivers will be thinking tyre conservation with the conditions as hot as they are out there, which again is unusual for Snetterton at this time of year. But they will be looking after those tyres. And that front left takes a hammering around this track, especially around here at Coram. It is just getting so pushed on, and even through Riches as well, gets pushed on. A lot of forces through that. You've got to look after that front left tyre.
Yes, the front right doesn't really have a lot to do, does it, in comparison? But you're right, almost, with the exception of the S's and the old Russell sequence at the end of the lap, just about everything else is putting the load through that left front. Sebastian Job, though, now starting to get away fractionally, 0.4 of a second up the road ahead of the Lukes, Bennett and McEwen, and Graham Carroll still stuck in fourth ahead of Josh Thompson and then Alexander Davidson. Crofton Woodhatch, though, leading at the moment within the AM battle, and about a second adrift. But closing is Luke Pennington.
Yeah, he is closing. It's now a question of how long does that take. I mean, Luke was about, 3.5–4 quicker on that last lap than Crofton. So he is slowly gaining. And there's plenty of time in this race. I mean, we've only had a small portion of this, 18 minutes to go on the clock. Anything can happen in this series, and quite frankly, I wouldn't be shocked by anything.
Peter Berryman having a frustrating race, having dropped back from where he qualified and not being able to make progress forward at the moment. Jacob Toft's also going quite nicely at the moment in the Duckham's liveried car, 12th, which if he stays there would be his best finish of the season. Real world Porsche racer as well as esports Porsche driver. But Sebastian Jobe up front is just starting to look a little bit more secure. He's just adding about a tenth a lap now to that margin and really frustrating Luke Bennett, who is close but not close enough to have a go.
I think Sebastian's just managing things at the front right now. I don't think he's pushing on hard. I mean, his lap times are into the 1:09, so he's not going absolute hell for leather. He's looking after his car and tyres. He knows the long game here. Let's look back to what happened then to Daniel Kerfield. So this is into the hairpin. There's Jack Sedgwick. The door, well, if it wasn't ajar, it was kicked open.
Yes. And really, there was nowhere for either of them to go once the initial contact had been made, because Jack Sedgwick had to sort of bulldoze his way through, and Daniel Cofield's car wasn't coming back from that angle. So the net result of that was that Sedgwick has fallen down the order as well. Gap coming down in Am then between Woodhatch and Pennington, and under braking, the gap is down in Pro, Jobe to Bennett. When they came across the timing line, it was round about the half a second mark. And Luke Bennett brakes late, does sort of trick you a little bit into thinking they're closer than they are, because then it washes out as he scrabbles round the corner. Sebastian Jobe then, looking to have a perfect weekend here. 2 Super Cup wins. Can he had 2 Carrera Cup GB wins a day later?
I tell you what, if he does end up getting 2 race wins here today in this one as well as the pole position, he needs to go and put some numbers on the lottery, because he is it's just everything is falling in his place. It really is almost a perfect day for him yesterday. He's got that pole position already. He's managing things up front. I don't think he's going to be too worried about Luke Pennington putting a stupid move on him, because yes, Sebastian is in the Oracle Red Bull sim racing team, and Luke Pennington's in the Team Redline car, but it's Team Redline that are helping manage that Oracle Red Bull sim racing outfit. So they've got that partnership there between them. They don't want to end up having to have a long conversation with the boss, do they?
No, that's true. But equally, Luke Bennett wants as many points as he can get, having not scored in either race at Donington. But I just feel, as we've seen so often this year, that Sebastian Jobe has got the measure of everybody. And you're right, he is managing all of this. He doesn't need to push on any further. And it gives false hope, in a sense, to Luke Bennett, although his life's about to change, because Luke McEwen is getting closer and closer. So second and third battle is about to be joined, I suspect. And that's going to take some of the pressure off Sebastian Jobe. There he is at work. Absolute model of concentration as he pushes on through Coram.
I will say that Luke McEwen yesterday in the main race of the Porsche Esports Super Cup, he led most of that race, but he admitted in his interview afterwards that he'd just pushed the tyres a bit too hard because he had to with the drivers that were so close to him behind. He's in that other position now. He's behind the others. He can look after his tyres, keep the pressure on, and then push on into that final half of the race.
Again, look, under braking, Luke Bennett closing right up onto the back of Sebastian Jobe, number 1. Sebastian, Super Cup Esports champion, Carrera Cup GB Esports champion. He is very much the benchmark driver. And this, the run down Bentley Straight, under the vehicle bridge. Then you go left, then you go right through the S's.
I think there's a battle for Am lead as well further down, because, Luke Pennington's dropping down the order, in fact. So something's happened to Luke, that he's dropping all the way down the order here.
Right, so Pennington in strife, and therefore we're looking at perhaps our first different Am winner of the season. Not the same necessarily in Pro, where we've had 3 different winners out of the 4 races. It's the reverse grid that's given us a break in the Jobe domination. This is Luke McEwen's view. He's heading up towards the timing line. We're just about heading towards halfway, just 13 more minutes on the clock. And he's not catching Bennett in the same way that Bennett is tantalisingly close but unable to get right onto the back of Jobe for the race lead.
Yeah, it's all a bit calm at the moment. I think it'll get a bit more exciting with about 8 minutes to go in this race. That's when the gloves will come off in this one. But yes, down this Bentley Straight again. McEwen's just biding his time, I think. I think he's just waiting for an opportunity. Now let's have a look at a replay. It was contact, and it's Pennington around. There was space given by both drivers. I think it was just one of those unfortunate side to side, and one car just loses the back end.
One of the fascinating elements of the championship that appears a day or so after the race is the protest reports, and it'll make interesting reading after this race, I think, because certainly at that pinch point coming out of Wilson onto the Bentley Straight, we've had quite a number of incidents, and that's a significant one, taking effectively out of contention, not out of the race, but certainly out of contention, the AM championship leader. So now we'll see Luke Pennington try to fight back, but it gives away places, gives away points, and it renders him with a rather less than agreeable grid position for race 2, doesn't it? Because outside the top 6, there's no reversal.
Yeah, it's where you finish is your grid position for the rest of the race. There is your AM championship leader, Luke Pennington, and now he's in that interesting situation of where he's stuck behind a pro driver in Thomas Cope. So Cope won't want him past because, well, Pennington's not giving him much choice. He's gone down the inside and he's going for Scott Merckx as well, all in one move. And, a little bit of a rub. And, well, Pennington's forced his way through. Oh, my goodness, Scott Merckx, the front end of his car needs a bit of work. I think the Porsche parts department will be delighted about that news.
But Luke Pennington is all of a sudden right back into third in class. So the points are coming back his way. And let's see whether he can catch up. There's a lot of real estate ahead of him, but he's certainly pushing, and Luke Pennington has not given up. He's still got 11 minutes to go, so you never know. If there's further drama up the road, he might be able to gain another place, but it's been a really good recovery drive, this. He's not given up, has he?
I think it might be just a little bit too much to do to try and push through and get that place from Oliver Etheridge. I think it's just a little bit much to catch Oliver in that ACAR car. Easy for me to say. And in fact, Pennington feeling the need to actually break the slipstream there down the start and finish straight here. So he does still feel under a little bit of pressure from Thomas Cope in that Olympus Esports car.
But he's only 2.7 seconds away from Etheridge and was 0.6 quicker last time through. So I reckon Pennington in 10 minutes certainly could be on for second. I think a class win off Crofton Woodhatch is looking unlikely, but second place for Pennington. Wouldn't rule that one out. Let's see.
Yeah, certainly one driver who is having a great time out there, though, is, well, there we see Crofton then behind Daniel Sedgley. And actually, this is going to help him. He's got a drafting partner, a slipstream partner here. That'll help him keep his lap times up to stop Luke Pennington and Oliver Etheridge to catch up to him. Although Crofton does have quite some damage to the front of his car. That will be affecting his top speed slightly.
And was it not Crofton Woodhatch that we saw getting involved with Luke Pennington that caused his departure? And therefore, the story may not necessarily end at the checkered flag, because if race control feel there's a case to be answered on the part of Crofton Woodhatch, then that might rumble on. We'll wait and see. And right now, he's a little bit stuck. So this, in theory, should be allowing Etheridge to close, and a hard-charging Luke Pennington, who, when he came across the line last time, was again round and about over a second quicker than Etheridge. So second place is heading Pennington's way with 9 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be intriguing. But, of course, you can catch. It's whether you can make the move. And Pennington, he seems to be in that school of thought of arrive at a driver that you're quicker than, just make the move straight away. Don't get stuck behind them, because you end up slowing yourself down if you end up behind them for too long. So he just seems to just get the move done at the earliest opportunity and then moves on. That appears to be Luke's modus operandi at the moment.
All right, so down he comes then, up towards the end of the lap. And for him, it is lap 14 that he is about to complete. So there goes Luke Pennington in the Coach Dave Academy entry, David Perel's squad, and he is edging ever closer to Oliver Etheridge as they go by. So he's not quite close enough to think about a move, but he will be in a couple of laps' time. On that last lap, Etheridge did a 1 minute 10.5, and it was a 1 minute 9.7 for Pennington. So no question about it, the gap is coming down for second place in AM.
Yeah, that gap is closing and closing and closing. It is certainly getting a bit tighter there. Nathan Teague, it is worth pointing out, started at the very back of the grid in the 19th right now. It should be one of his best results of the season, actually, for Nathan in 19th. If he can hang on to that, of course, because that's easier said than done with Dylan Platt, Daniel Cofield and Jack Sedgwick all trying to work their way through.
It would be his best of the year, you're quite right, Paul, and you could argue that he's kind of been helped into that by keeping out of trouble, but you've got to do that. And although he was in the wars at Donington, other people have had their travails here. So, yeah. Stick at it, Nathan. This is looking good. It's going in the right direction. Every race, he's finished better than in the previous one. So 29th, 25th, 24th, 21st, going in the right direction and set for 19th if he can stay there for just under 7 more minutes.
I will say, last lap at your leaders, Luke Bennett was just under a tenth quicker than Sebastian Job. So this could be where the wick is starting to get turned up now, and Sebastian could start feeling some pressure from behind in the next 6.5 minutes.
Whereas Luke Pennington was 9/10 quicker than Oliver Ettridge, so that is definitely going to be alive before the end. There is Sebastian Job. Well, he only has to win by 1,000th. As long as he wins, comes up towards the line. It's hovering around the half-a-second mark. He goes through. The Lukes, Bennett, McEwen still second and third. Graham Carroll in 4th place. Then a small gap to Josh Thompson and Alexander Davidson, but the familiar Red Bull colours are up front, and Oliver Ettridge now is under attack, isn't he? He's got Luke Pennington right up behind him. This is for second in AM.
If we go by what Luke's been doing so far, expect to move down towards Riches. He's in the slipstream, he's in that draft. Is he going to duck out? No, he half looked, but then decided, I'm just too far back to make that move. But we've seen him make this move. This is his favourite overtaking spot down here into Wilson. And again, just sending it down the inside, nose inside. But if he can hold it around the outside, oh, and it's done it again!
But that was self-induced, wasn't it? I don't think there was contact that time. He was on the dirty line, and Luke Pennington, instead of getting second place in AM, has a spin and drops away. Oliver Ettridge survives for a moment, although Tom Cope makes his move at the end of Bentley Straight and goes through, so Tom Cope moves up into 15th place overall. That's Pro passing AM, but Luke Pennington hung it out on the outside line and just lost traction.
I don't think that Pennington actually left enough space on the inside for the other car, and that induced just the tiniest of contact, and it unsettled the car. You're on the power coming out of the corner, and around she goes. That's put him down to 19th behind Nathan Teague. Well, Nathan has been keeping out of trouble. There you go, he pinches, doesn't he? Pinches on the apex when there's a car there.
It just looked, if it was contact, it was very, very slight. I still think he was just on the dirty line. But either way, it's done him a power of no good, hasn't it? And for the first time this year, we're going to have a different winner in AM. Crofton Woodhatch, who has been there or thereabouts, to use that awful phrase, in each race thus far, is going to be a winner, seemingly. So the AM form book is ripped up. Now, all of that, of course, is subject to anything post-race that the officials have up their sleeve, because there was contact earlier between Woodhatch and Pennington. But at least on the road, with 4 minutes to go, Crofton Woodhatch is set for a class victory.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a reason why we always say provisional race results. But yeah, Crofton for Grant Motorsport, they'll be just crossing everything to make sure that everything goes well for them to get that AM win here with 4 minutes to go. Yeah, it's that perseverance that is shown in the series as well. Shows that perseverance gets you results in the end.
Yeah, it comes from a good racing family, does Crofton. Grantley Woodhatch was a very rapid Volkswagen Racing Cup and Vento stalwart and regular front runner a few years ago. And Crofton Woodhatch then in the AM category, turning his way now up through Wilson. Then you will flick through that left-hander onto Bentley Straight once again. And now Crofton, in his first year of Carrera Cup GB esports racing, accelerates off down towards the S's. 3 more minutes, though, for Sebastian Job, Luke Bennett and Luke McEwen. It's going to be win number 3, provisionally, for Sebastian Job. Luke Bennett will be on for his best finish of the season. Luke McEwen, a third place of the season, if things stay as they are now.
if you're Luke, you're just getting a little bit frustrated now, getting towards the end of the race, and you can see them coming across the line there. It's closer to Luke Bennett now as McEwen, so he's putting the pressure on Bennett in front. But Sebastian Job has just kept that gap, hasn't he? All race long, he's not let it go really below 0.4 of a second, and he's just managed things at the front, and it's working out beautifully for him. But yeah, McEwen now, he's got to be looking to start making some moves, if he can get close enough, that is.
Whereas in AM, Crofton Woodhatch now has a buffer of not only a big time gap, but also another car between himself and Oliver Ettridge. Luke Pennington is still trying to fight back after his very difficult race. And William Chadwick, likewise, who's really not having the season he wanted in the championship. 2 retirements at Donington. He's way back in 8th place here, but trying to find a way past Matt Emery for 7th. Good racing, this.
It's Pete Berryman that was actually attacking Will there in all of that. So Pete, he's not had the best opening race of the day as well. The wave of the hand from Pete Berryman, he's not happy with that little bit of a rub from Chadwick through Coram there, and that means that Pete has to just fall back into line, and this is just really for the scraps of the points at the bottom half of the top 10 for these drivers.
Yeah, they can't even be fighting for the reverse grid pole, can they? Because they're outside of that top 6 reversal. Now, there's going to be time for one more lap at the end of this, I would suggest, as the race leaders head to the end of Bentley Straight. Sebastian Job ahead of Luke Bennett, ahead of Luke McEwen, and it is Alexander Davidson in 6th place. We've not really seen him in the race, but he is set for pole for race 2 on the reversal.
If you're not really getting talked about by the commentators, you're just quietly going about your business, and if it's working for you, great. That's a good day in the office, if you ask me as a driver. But yeah, Davidson, and he showed last week, didn't he, that he's feisty when he starts in the front row in that second race and can hold a position.
There he is. We ask, and the director delivers. So Alexander Davidson is there in 6th place. And we'll be hoping that even though this isn't the best result necessarily, it will translate into not just pole, but the race lead and maybe a win in race 2. Interesting, Sebastian Job winning both of those Super Cup races yesterday. He's on his last lap now. And of course, the second win was from a reversal of the top 8 on the grid. Whereas in Carrera Cup GB, Paul, his reverse grid races haven't really been stellar.
No, it's been quite the opposite, hasn't it? And I just think that maybe he's just thinking about getting just banking those points. It's working out for him beautifully this season, it must be said. But yeah, just banking points and getting himself up there with a gap at the front. But Sebastian, I mean, he's had so far a perfect weekend, 2 pole positions, and this will be a 3rd race win of the weekend, should I say.
3rd win of the weekend, 3rd win of the championship season in Carrera Cup GB. Did hang it out a bit coming out of bomb hole, but survived it. And so, heading now then up towards the checkered flag at the end of lap 22, it is going to be a race win for Sebastian Job. He's done it again. That is win number 3 in the Porsche Rafa Racing Club Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain. 2nd across the line, Luke Bennett. 3rd, Luke McEwen. Well, Crofton Woodhatch in AM has had a 3rd, he's had a 2nd, and provisionally he's about to have his 1st victory as well. Yes, there was a bit of contact along the way, but look at the gap he's got over everybody else in class as Crofton Woodhatch on the road wins in AM in this 5th race of the championship season.
Yeah, great stuff, and good to see another winner on the amateur championship tally here. And Luke Pennington, I'll tell you what, if you're Luke Pennington, you're going to be kicking yourself after this race. A couple of issues out there, and we know at least one of them was self-induced, so yeah, he won't be happy with himself.
Absolutely right. But Sebastian Job is a very happy man because he is the race winner from Luke Bennett and Luke McEwen in 3rd place. 4th going to Graham Carroll ahead of Josh Thompson, Alexander Davidson 6th. That's pole, and you reverse that top 6 for race 2. 7th, Matt Emery ahead of Will Chadwick, Pete Berryman, and 10th, Leo Gariboli, with Jacob Toths doing the fastest lap. He was 12th behind Gareth Higgins, but ahead of Dan Sedgley. 14th was the AM winner, Crofton Woodhatch, ahead of Tom Cope. 2nd, AM Oliver Ettridge, and 3rd in the AM contest was Scott Moat. behind him. So 4th, Luke Pennington, his first non-win of the year, ahead of Nathan Tague, 19th, his best finish of the season. Well done, Nathan. And Daniel Cofield in 20th spot. 21st, Eric Grove ahead of Jack Sedgwick, and then Dylan Platt. Daniel Martin was 24th ahead of Adam Holloway, and the one that retired was David Williams. So that is how we look then at the end of race 1. And Sebastian Jobe doing it again, and it's becoming a pattern, isn't it? Race 1, sets pole, gets a really good start, able to control the pace on cold tyres on the first lap, and then, although he never scarpers into the distance, Paul, he's always there just able to maintain the gap and never cracks under the pressure.
Yeah, we saw a similar thing last season when maybe he wasn't quite as challenged as he has been this season so far. He would control matters for the first 2/3 of the race, and then last year he would then just scarper off, like you say. But this season, he's not got the ability to do that, so he's just managing that race all the way through so that when he does start finally feeling a bit of pressure from behind, he's got that bit of life in the tyres to be able to get that extra pace where he does need it. But certainly, it's been one heck of a start to the season for Sebastian, and it's a question of who can step up to challenge him.
I suppose another question is now for race 2, does he try and hustle his way to the front, or does he just see what happens and banks points? Because for Pro, there's a greater weight of points, 12 for the win in race 1 rather than 10 for the win in race 2. You could argue that he's done the bulk of the work anyway, so anything from here on in is a kind of bonus.
Yeah, 2 points for pole position as well. So
True, yeah.
He's got those in the bank. I don't think you need to force your way through. I don't think he'll do anything silly. I think he'll just see what happens, and if an opportunity arises, yeah, absolutely, he'll take it with both hands, that is for sure. But I think he's smart about things, and he won't try pushing it, and he wants to stay in the good books of the stewards, I think.
Whereas in Am, staying in the stewards' good books may not really be possible after that first race. It was a bit scrappy at times.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't as scrappy as the first race yesterday, I can tell you that, but certainly there was some elbows out there in that first race, and we know that Luke Pennington, one was definitely his own fault of his travails there in that first race, but you got to say, Crofton Woodhatch just steady away, stood his ground, and got the result, got the win.
Yeah, I mean, that was a really big winning margin. It was well over 8 seconds, a few laps from home. The question mark is over whether he got involved to a degree of fault in the initial contact with Luke Pennington, but that's no doubt going to be discussed post-race. What we need to discuss next, though, is the grid for race 2, which will have Alexander Davidson on pole position and Josh Thompson lining up second ahead of Graham Carroll and Luke McEwen. Then Luke Bennett and the race 1 winner Sebastian Jobe 6th on that reversal. Starting 7th, Matt Emery, 8th, William Chadwick ahead of Pete Berryman, a winner here 2 years ago, and Leo Gariboli. Then you've got Gareth Higgins and Jacob Toft. Interesting that he got the fastest lap in that first race. Dan Sedgley next, ahead of Crofton Woodhatch. Then there's Tom Cope and Oliver Ettridge, Scott Mokes and Luke Pennington rounding out the top 18 on the grid, ahead of Nathan Tague. Then Daniel Cofield, he in turn is ahead of Eric Grove and Jack Sedgwick a long way back. Dylan Platt, 23rd, ahead of Daniel Martin, with the grid completed by Adam Holloway. And David Williams, an experienced esports racer. Now, what progress can he make from flat last on the grid?
I think he'll be hoping for a lot of progress, but it's going to be tougher for him to do than he thinks it will be, because this grid is really, really stacked with talent, and that's not just in the pro either. In AM, you know, they are feisty. They want to be able to fight for positions and get the best results that they can as well. So I think it's going to be difficult for David and Jack Sedgwick as well, working a way through from the back of the grid. This top 6, I'm intrigued. If Josh Thompson could get a good start here, he could be a good shout for a race win today.
Now, there's a gap where William Chadwick, I think, should be on 8th on the grid. So there he is. He appears. And that means everybody now should be set, ready to go. Again, it's 25 minutes. And we are set to go racing on the Snetterton 200. It's the 6th race of the Porsche Rafa Racing Club Esports Carrera Cup. Great Britain, it is go. Lots of wheel spin from Davidson and a much, much better start made by Josh Thompson, who charges around the outside. He's got the race lead. A good start also by Graham Carroll, but is it good enough to gain ground heading into turn one? Sebastian Job also on his toes as they battle their way up towards Sear, but the big loser out of that with all the wheel spin was Davidson from pole.
Oh, I don't think you could get much worse start than that, than if you put it in reverse and went backwards. Oh, he's getting knocked 7 bells out of each other down in the midfield, and that's contact. Davidson, and that's Crofton Woodhatch around. Oh, big hit.
So first contact got him sideways, a secondary hit, and Crofton Woodhatch, after a win in race 1, is in big strife in race 2. It was all kicking off with everyone going for the same bit of ground coming on to Bentley Straight, and you've seen the net outcome of that with cars bouncing off each other. A lot of damage picked up as the leaders come into quorum then for the first time, and Alexander Davidson is way down the order off that duff start.
Jack Sedgwick and Crofton Woodhatch, surprise, they've got mechanical meatball warning flags, so they're pretty much parking their cars in the pits. But look who's up into 3rd place in this race already. Sebastian Job, talk about launch off the line. He's been able to do it again into the podium spot straight away.
Some of that was that bad start of Davidson. Others was that the road just opened up ahead of him. He can just sit there now, though, can't he? Because he's already on target for his best reverse grid race finish of the season in Carrera Cup GB. He's actually not given up yet because he's still on the tail of Luke McEwen, who in turn is on the back of Josh Thompson. So anything from here on in a way, is a bonus for Sebastian Job. He's already banking more points in this reverse grid race than in the previous 2 of the year. But he ain't done yet. 23 minutes still to go, and he's having a look for 2nd place.
Oh, he wants a double race win here. I can sense it. He wants to have a perfect weekend here, but it was Josh Thompson who made a mistake into Wilson on this lap that just brought those two of Luke McEwen and Sebastian Job close together with him. So fighting further down, Matt Emery in that Veloce Vext car, just not having the best of days. And Will Chadwick, oh, that was always going to end in tears into that final corner.
So another sort out, and you see exactly what happens. 2 cars make contact, door opens up somewhere else, everybody tries to fill it, and it means that there's danger of yet more contact. Peter Berryman goes through in 8th behind Leo Gariboli. Gariboli having a better race 2 than he did race 1. So it's Thompson, McEwen, Job. Carroll was 4th across the line, Matt Emery 5th, Will Chadwick in 6th.
Yeah, it's and that's a contact into the hairpin. There's been Peter Berryman, I think, has made a move, and it's all gone terribly wrong for him at the Wilson hairpin. And this has been a day to forget, I think, if you're Peter, and the Northern Irishman's going to have to just basically put this in the bin and come back fighting next time out.
Yes, he's been devolved a bit now, hasn't he, the Northern Irishman, as far as that lead battle is concerned. But let's see what he can do before the end. He wants to try and bank some points if he can, but a winner at Silverstone in the reverse grid race. And getting a replay of what kicked off on that first lap. Crofton Woodhatch was the innocent party, really. 3 into 1 didn't go, and the car in the middle was the one that was really at fault. But then as a spinning Crofton Woodhatch was heading down the straight, he got hit again, and big damage, as you were saying at the time, Paul.
Yeah, and Thomas Coates just dropped down a ton of positions at the final corner as well, so he's had issues out there. Look at Luke Pennington, lead of AM already into 12th place. He's done it already.
Now, he might say, bear in mind 1 or 2 did have dramas ahead of me on that first lap, but even so, he is a man well fired up, isn't he? I don't think he likes being beaten. So Luke Pennington ahead of Scott Moakes, but yeah, storming drive in the first, what have we had, 3 laps of the race.
Yeah, we're on lap 4 of the race. It's been a tremendous one as this one, but yeah, the front 4 are breaking away from the rest of the field after that shenanigans at the final corner on the previous lap. It's allowed this front 4 just to pull away. If you're Josh Thompson, he is, I can tell you now, he has had some of the worst luck this year in the Porsche Esports Super Cup on the last 2 Saturdays. He'll be wanting to just try and get a good result again, like he did last time here in this series, and just try and get back onto some sort of positive outcomes for him.
Yeah, he was that reverse grid winner, wasn't he, at Donington Park last time out? So is he becoming the reverse grid king? Well, if he gets another win, the crown might be heading his way. This, though, is what Sebastian Job is staring at, and it is the back of Luke McEwen's car. Turn right through Wilson, Then flick left onto Bentley Straight. Speed building here, but he's not close enough yet to think about a move into the braking area, is he?
No, and you can see how much steering lock they have to put in through the both the right-hand hairpin and the left onto the Bentley Straight as well. It's a lot of understeering again through the S's. You can see he's having to work the wheel. And these pro drivers, they all use direct drive wheels, which means it's just basically a shaft into a motor. That is it. There's no other moving parts to it. You can get some serious forces. You're talking Newton meters of 25 Newton meters of force through that. So it gives you a lot of feedback. Meanwhile, speaking of feedback, they'll be getting feedback through the wheels of knocking into each other, Will Chadwick and Matt Emery, and there's a whole queue of cars behind them.
I think race control are set for a busy couple of hours after the second race. Just as much happening as there was in the first. Look back from Will Chadwick's car then. Luke Bennett arguing his way through behind on the outside, but he's going to lose out. Matt Emery goes back ahead of him. Look on the run up towards the tight right at Wilson. Through the corner they come now.
Luke Bennett had to be careful there not to get freight trained as well. Off he goes, unceremoniously dumped into the wall. There's Luke Bennett across the front of Matt Emery now. Was it a case of Luke has got onto the power and it's just pushed his car into the front quarter of Matt Emery's car? I don't know from that first look, but contact means that it's a good day for Luke Bennett.
So, changing fortunes lap after lap here as the race battles on. 18 minutes still to go. You kind of get the feeling if you survive this, you're going to score quite well, because so many people, particularly in the mid-pack, have been in the wars. The leading quartet, though, Thompson, McEwen, Job and Carroll, look at the gap they've pulled now.
Here's the replay again, and it's just two into one gap just does not go, and when you get that front quarter, rear quarter contact, it just inevitably spins the car around. But yeah, this front pack, this front quartet, they are all together as one, and there comes a point where you can almost, it's like in Formula 1 with the DRS train, where they almost sort of cancel each other out being in the slipstream.
Yeah, I think we've said before, you almost end up driving at the pace of the car ahead. You get mesmerised by it. We know that Sebastian Job can go quicker because he was the pole position driver, the race 1 winner. But right now, third it is, and Graham Carroll, again, close, but not able to push through and think about a race win. And he's wide, coming out of bomb hole, kicking up the dirt. Josh Thompson ahead of Luke McEwen then. The margin between those two was pretty much nothing at all at the start of the lap. It's just over a fifth of a second as they head now up to the end of lap 7.
Graham Carroll used to be a teammate of Sebastian Job in the Oracle Red Bull Sim Racing team, so I think there'll be no love lost between these two. They know each other very well. They've spent many an hour in practices, just working together. Well, now they're on opposite ends, and I know all your tricks, but you don't know all of my tricks, Sonny, and that's what it's going to be between those two for third place.
Race leaders once more on to Bentley Straight. This is lap 8. Josh Thompson was just a fifth of a second ahead of Luke McEwen then when they went over the line. Now he's going to have to go defensive, isn't he? Because that margin has come right down, and now I think Luke McEwen is having a serious think about where he can make the move. Partly because he wants to lead, and partly because he knows he's got to get on with it, otherwise he'll be prey for Sebastian Job.
Alex Davidson trying to recover whatever result he can do, just getting past Luke Pennington down the Bentley Straight there. So that's up into 10th place for him. I don't think Pennington will appreciate that because he's got Scott Merckx behind him. That's not going to be helping matters. Sebastian Job, look at him, no emotion, just nice and calm behind the wheel. It just doesn't seem to have any sort of stress right now. I think he's quite happy and content at this stage of the race to be there in third place.
The best lap of the race thus far is by Matt Emery, who is finding himself a little further down the order in 9th spot, but as the leaders once more accelerate from Wilson onto Bentley Straight. Josh Thompson looking for a second win of the season then. Reverse grid winner at Donington, reverse grid leader here at Snetterton, and Joe pulls out of the draft. More to unsettle McEwen, I think, than a serious bid. Just has a look, and also that breaks any slipstream effect the ground Carroll might have been benefiting from.
You've got to pull out all the tricks, haven't you? It's you know, it's a case of, all right, we've tried the card tricks, we've tried the bunny in the hat. What's next? Possibly cutting somebody in half. I don't know, but he's trying everything that he can to upset Luke McEwen. But we've seen how McEwen, when he's behind Job at Silverstone and at Donington last time out, that McEwen wasn't able to get into the head of Job, and I think it's almost the same but in reverse here.
Yeah, Job is on the attack, he is on the defensive at the same time, but what we don't really know is how committed he is to taking that second place. He's not darting around, is he, in the mirrors, corner by corner, trying to force an error out of McEwen. You get the feeling that if an opportunity presents, he'll go for it, but otherwise he's quite content, yet again, to bank points. And that, in a way, is a little bit different from what we thought at the start, where he looked a lot more toe-in. We thought he was going for the race win.
McEwen looked really close to Thompson here, actually, going into the S's, so it could be starting to get a little bit more exciting at the front as we reach the halfway point of the race. I think McEwen, he's got in his mindset that he feels he's quicker than Josh, and he wants to get past to try and gap out away from Sebastian and to try and get those whatever extra points he can to close up that difference between him and Job.
Now, the next thing, Paul, I need you to do, please, is to take off your flat cap and tip it in the direction of David Williams, because he's gone from 26th on the grid to 14th in the race, which ain't half bad.
That is a heck of a run so far. 12 places gained, and I wouldn't count him out from being able to make more places up here as well. He's got Daniel Sedgley and Thomas Cope in front of him. And in fact, they're not far off of the AM pair at the front of the AM race in 10th and 11th. So don't write out David Williams yet. He's one of the most experienced drivers on the track. And by most experienced, I mean oldest in age, but certainly that age isn't hindering him.
Nor, for the moment, is all the pressure hindering Josh Thompson. He can't shake them off, but just like we saw at Donington, he doesn't put wheels wrong, does he? He's like a sponge, soaking it all up. David Williams, then, in number 31, the Commander Esports entry, still trying to hustle forward and get up past Dan Sedgley for 13th place overall, which would be 11th in class.
Yeah, he wants to make those moves now. You can see that Cope is moving forward, got between Mux and Pennington. And it's an Olympus Esports trio right now in front. So Sedgley and Cope, the two pros, and Mux, the AM. So David will be thinking, well, I've got a trio of colourful cars in front of me. I need to get them in my rear-view mirror.
Well, he's got the pace, absolutely. So as he goes through then, David Williams, his last lap was a 1 minute 10 and about a tenth quicker, half a second quicker nearly than Scott Mokes. Trouble is that the closer you get to the traffic ahead, then you get a bit stuck in it. It's harder to wriggle away through. He's cleared Dan Sedgley. Mokes is the next target. And Tom Cope has also split now Pennington and Mokes as the top two in AM. So Tom Cope, after that spin at Donington, having a much better showing here at Snetterton.
He certainly is, as Pete Berryman also on the charge has got past Daniel Sedgley as well. So not a good lap for Sedgley to lose 2 places on this one. But Williams and Berryman are charging through. Jacob Toft and Matt Emery have been swapping places as well, battling for 8th place in this race. We briefly saw them. And there is a bit of a look from Luke McEwen. All of a sudden, it's starting to get a little bit heated at the front.
And Joe buys into it as well, and he swings to the inside line to try to go to second place, then the outside at Wilson. So the championship leader, number 1, Sebastian Job, the race 1 winner, can't find a way through, but it wasn't for the want of trying. So he's actually lost a little bit of ground, hasn't he, as they come onto Bentley Straight this time. And all of a sudden, Job has got to go defensive because we've got 2 pairs now, 1 for the lead, 1 for third, and Job is defending from Carroll.
Oh, Graham, he backed out that thought against it into the S's there. He's another one that's a bit of a wily veteran, is Graham, and don't count him out of making a move. But yeah, Job, I think it was a mistake to try and go around the outside there, because it does it makes it really tight on the inside going onto the straight, and you lose that pace, and that's exactly what we saw Sebastian happen.
But Josh Thompson is not getting away. We're into the final 10 minutes then of race 2 here at Snetterton. So here they come then with these 510 horsepower equivalent Porsches over the line. Thompson, McEwen, Job, Carroll. This nature of Snetterton with the 2 long straights really does give the cars a chance to stretch their legs. And coming out of Riches up towards Wilson, that's the leading quartet. Thompson, McEwen, Job, Carroll. No change in the order, but it is still very, very close. And look, under braking, Job is right back onto the tail of McEwen.
I almost feel now that McEwen's thinking, right, I do need to make this move and make it as soon as possible. Thompson is a feisty character. He will defend and defend hard, will Josh. And to the outside, he can make this move work through the S's here for Luke. And he's going to make it try and work. Thompson will get on the power, but he's done it. Great move for the lead.
New race leader, Luke McEwen goes through. Sebastian Job thinks, right, I need to do this as well. He's quick through a bomb hole, but there isn't really an opportunity on the inside at Coram. And straight away, because Thompson's having to defend second place, McEwen is going to be able to build that gap. They come down towards the end now of lap number 14, up towards the line, and you can see that Luke McEwen is starting to edge away ever so slightly. And is he on for a first win of the season? Let's see. Over the line he goes, and the margin as they came through was just over 0.3 of a second.
I think that Josh has just used up his tyres that bit more than everybody else. Oh, Job's looking to the inside of Josh now. That's a move into the hairpin, and Josh is losing ground. And yeah, I do feel it's just using up those tyres in the first half of the race. It's hot track conditions out there, 35.5 degrees Celsius, and that's where those drivers following him have been able to look after things.
So, Luke McEwen, it is leading the way. And remember that he was 4th on the grid. So, clear at the moment of Sebastian Job. But with Thompson having fallen back into 3rd place, Luke McEwen might be on a borrowed time. 8 minutes to go. But Sebastian Job now in his best reverse grid race position in Carrera Cup GB of the season would dearly like 4 wins out of the weekend. He's had 1 in Carrera Cup GB already today, and he had 2 in the Esports Porsche Super Cup yesterday. Can he complete the set? Up towards the line, 7.5 minutes on the clock, goes over the line. Just under half a second is the margin. Job certainly has the pace to do this.
Yeah, it's whether he can get one over Luke McEwen here. That's another thing to make the move work. But he's seen what Luke can do and where he can overtake, and he might actually think, do you know what? You defend the inside into the S's. I'll go around the outside. That's absolutely fine. It's a viable tactic now, and it shows that you can make that move. Job's looking feisty, getting in the mirrors, as is Graham Carroll.
Yeah, Carroll wants a podium, doesn't he, out of all of this? And Sebastian Job would like to be the first driver in Pro to do the double. Luke Pennington's done it, of course, twice, winning both races. That's in Am, but no one's done it yet in Pro. And if anybody can, it's going to be Sebastian Job. Look, he's really rapid going into Coram. And because Thompson's having to defend, he's falling away. That helps Job, takes the pressure off him, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It really means that Job can focus on that battle for the lead, and with time running down now, we're only going to have around about 6 laps or so. It's going to be tight as to whether we'll get 5 or 6 laps. I tell you what, that cloud has really made things quite dark out there for these drivers, but they'll be so hyper-focused that they won't even pay attention to that.
No, the headlights are getting brighter, aren't they? Looking very endurance racing, all this now. That's for 3rd place. Thompson with Graham Carroll almost pushing him into the corner. This is for the lead. Coming onto the straight now. Luke McEwen versus Sebastian Job. Just over 0.3 of a second is the margin. Job not staying with him, though, is he? The gap has just stretched a touch in a straight line.
Yeah, didn't get the best exit out of the left-hander onto the Bentley straight, so just lost that pace. But look at how he rockets right up to the back of Luke under braking into the S's. He just seems to have that little bit more confidence, doesn't he, through the S's there, and closes that gap up. But Job, you can tell he's hyper-focused now. He's just absolutely stone-faced. He's focused on one thing only, and that's getting a win.
There's not much blinking going on, as you rightly say. He's absolutely focused, but comes up towards the line now. Just over 5 minutes are on the clock then. And remember that a flying lap around here is around about 69 seconds. So do the math as to how many more laps they're going to cram in. Job then hustles on up towards the Wilson tight right and closes, makes a move, does he on the inside? He's almost level. They're going to touch, they're going to rub. He's on the outside for the next corner. Can't make it stick, but that was really showing intent.
Here comes Josh Thompson as well. He's going, oh yes, come on, fight, do everything you can. I want the win here. He can still sense it, can the Manxman, but Job, he's on a mission here.
Up the inside, he's got the inside line for part one of the S's. He's sideways, he's all crossed up. Tries to hang on to the outside line. He's going to lose second place if he's not careful. Thompson up the inside line and will go through. Yes, Josh Thompson is back through. So Job, instead of going one up, goes one back. He's on the outside line at Coram, swoops back round the outside of Josh Thompson, so he is still in second place. Great recovery.
He must have been locking up the rears or something through the S's there. He was changing down and doing everything to hold on to that. It was all crossed up. I will say, tremendous car control to keep that pointed in a straight line. But McEwen, he's happy now. He's got an 0.8 of a second lead.
Yeah, he's gone. Although, that said, Job has actually been able to shake off Graham Carroll, who is up into third. So Josh Thompson's had a real yo-yo lap up and down the order, and he ends up worse off than he was, fourth. Will Chadwick is right up behind him in fifth place. This is Chadwick's view, almost tapping the tail of Thompson.
Yeah, we've not talked about Will at all this race. He's just been working his way forward, and he had a bit of rough and tumble with Matt Emery earlier on. But yeah, he's latched onto the back of these drivers now. He's sensing a podium, perhaps.
Jacob Tofts is ninth. That would be an even better best of the year. He'd had one best, if you like, in race one, but he's going to trump that in race two. Luke Pennington is into the top 10 as the AM leader. The Duckham's colours carried by Jacob Tofts. There he is in ninth place. Look who's behind him. It is Luke Pennington. Jacob comes from a good racing family because his dad, Neil, has been a Formula Ford racer for what feels like an eternity. And Jacob drove in the real-world Porsche Sprint Challenge, the Caymans, last year, as well as esports races. There he is, and gets better and better each time out, which is good to see.
Yeah, I always enjoy seeing the improvement that people can make, and how they're able to take their real-world driving experience, bring it into esports, and vice versa as well. It's a really good tool of keeping your race preparedness sharp.
So 2.5 more minutes. There is time for this lap. Maybe they can squeeze 2 more out of it. Let's keep an eye on the clock when they get up towards the line. Luke McEwen then leading the way. The margin was just under 0.6 of a second last time around, and Job is pushing again. And as they come to the end of Bentley Straight, so the gap is down fractionally with Graham Carroll in third place. He was third in the reverse grid race at Donington, and he could be on for the podium again. Fourth, I think, is the one that's rather less secure. Thompson being reeled in by Chadwick.
He certainly is. Get a look from Sebastian Job, and he has caught up a little bit of the gap that he lost out. Remember, it was 0.8 of a second that McEwen was leading a couple of laps ago, so that gap has come down a little bit. It's just whether there's enough time left in this race for Sebastian to be able to close up enough to challenge once again in this one. I think we've got 2 laps remaining in this race.
Yes, they can get 1 more out at the end of this. You're quite right. So a minute and a half just over now, 69 for a lap. So there's this and 1 more. So Luke McEwen under attack again. Sebastian Job closes under braking for Wilson. But look, he's bringing Graham Carroll into the mix with him now. 3 for the lead with 2 laps to go.
Oh, this is great. This is fantastic stuff. What a way to finish off your Sunday lunch and sit yourself down in front of the screen and watch these drivers give us one heck of a show. This is fantastic to watch, and well, certainly Sebastian, he's not giving this one up. He senses a perfect weekend here.
But Luke McEwen is doing a very good job of keeping him at bay. Through Coram they come. 1 more lap to go. And Sebastian Job, yes, you're absolutely right, Paul. I think he would like the perfect weekend, but he's not prepared to risk a non-finish, is he? He's not going to put himself in jeopardy. He's not been making contact. He's not been trying moves that are silly. If an opportunity presents, he might have a go, but I don't think he's going to force the issue and risk the 8 points that he'd get for second place.
No, he is somebody who will count the percentages and think, it'd be nice to get a win, but second place, a first and a second would not be a bad weekend either. Oh my goodness, he got rather close to the back of that Porsche.
So now, with just over half a lap to go, they're on Bentley Straight, and Luke McEwen is ticking off the corners. He goes from one side of the road to the other as well to try and break the slipstream effect, break the toe that Sebastian Job might be benefiting from down towards the S's. And so Luke McEwen looks as though this is going to be win number 1 of the season, although the gap comes down on the exit of the S's. He's had a couple of second places as Luke, but a win, possibly. He's got Coram, he's got the final part of the lap, the sharp left that brings you onto the pit straight to go. Sebastian Job is hustling on, but all the while he's thinking about banking points, and with a corner to go, he's not going to do a send up the inside, is he? The answer is no. Checker flag at the ready. Race 6 within the Porsche Rafa Racing Club Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain is going to go the way of Luke McEwen, his first win of the year. Sebastian Job takes second. Graham Carroll comes through for third ahead of Josh Thompson, who led the bulk of the race. Will Chadwick fifth. And Gareth Higgins comes through for 6th. That's his best finish of the season, ahead of Leo Gariboli, Matt Emery, Jacob Tofts for his best, and another AM win, 10th overall for Luke Pennington.
Tremendous stuff, fantastic entertainment. That was sensational. I loved that, and again, it's a good job from Luke Pennington to work his way through the field. I mean, he pretty much he got to the lead by lap 3 of the race, so he was on a charge at the start. Yeah, there was a bit of shenanigans and that helped him out, but yeah, definitely a great result for Luke as well to get back to winning ways.
Absolutely right. So Luke McEwen takes the win by 4/10 of a second, with Sebastian Job in second place and Graham Carroll third. Josh Thompson 4th ahead of Will Chadwick. Gareth Higgins 6th from Leo Gariboli, Matt Emery, Jacob Tofts, and 10th, the AM winner, that is Luke Pennington. 11th was Tom Cope ahead of Peter Berryman, who's had a rather frustrating time of it. In 13th place, David Williams, 26th to 13th, got past half the field. Excellent job. 14th, Scott Mokes ahead of Dan Sedgley and Dan Martin. Dylan Platt was 17th ahead of Eric Grove, then Adam Holloway. And 20th was Oliver Ettridge. Nathan Tague 21st, then Daniel Cofield. Alexander Davidson was a retirement, so also was Luke Bennett, but he did set the fastest lap before his retirement. We lost rather Crofton Woodhatch and Jack Sedgwick early on after their tangle on the first lap of the race. Right, more great racing then from the Esports Carrera Cup GB, and we really did see, Paul, in that race, Sebastian Job show his racing instinct, didn't we, in race 2, because he got stuck in more in that reverse grid race than we've seen in previous ones.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just the prospect of getting a perfect weekend was a bit of a temptation for him to say, right, I'll get the shoulders out, let's go for this one. But I'll tell you what, a tremendous defensive display as well from Luke McEwen to be able to hold off Sebastian with that move through the S's. And what a tremendous move by Luke McEwen on Josh Thompson through the S's the previous lap before that as well. Absolutely sensational stuff. And yeah, hopefully we will get to speak to 1 or 2 of our drivers, but that was fantastic stuff. I think the drivers, the Full Metal Racing drivers in the Porsche Carrera Cup GB have got quite the act to follow with this series.
Indeed so. I mean, that's probably one of the most competitive races that we've had thus far in the season, and it's going to be interesting as well to see how that affects the championship come the end, not only in Pro but AM as well, with Luke Pennington having that, by his high standards, bad first race.
Yeah, it was the classic one of having a bad first race but then able to turn it round for the second race of the afternoon. I think it was good to jump back onto the horse and get the result that he wanted. I think it's Luke's championship to lose in AM, if I'm honest, and if he keeps on getting these results, it's going to be seeing what he can do against the pros for the second half of the season, perhaps.
Absolutely right. Well, I think we've got some of our top 3, if not all 3, in the waiting room. So hopefully, Paul, in a moment, we can hear from our successful race 2 drivers.
Absolutely. First up, Sebastian Job. Sebastian, I mean, it looked like you were going for a perfect weekend there. Once again, pole position, race 1 win. It was also close in race 2 there, though.
Yeah, a little bit frustrating. A bit too little, too late. But I'm very happy because the pace was really good, best I've had all season. And I was, in the first 2 rounds, even though the results were good, I wasn't very satisfied with my pace. So now that that's solved, I can be much more pleased with these results. Yeah, it was very close to getting 4 wins out of 4. Not quite, but still, 3 wins out of 4 is a very, very strong weekend. And the bad result being a P2 is not to be scoffed at. So I'm very, very happy with that.
Yeah, in terms of the start of the championship, you can't really ask for a much better result this today, with a pole position with bonus points, a win in race 1, which is the higher point scoring one, and then a P2. You can't really ask for much more. You're not going to make a silly move and throw away a second place points, are you?
No, I mean, I almost did. It was a very, very close moment. But it was just hard racing, to be honest. I look back and it was just two people didn't want to give up the position. And I had to go for it. I felt like I was really quick at the end, so I'm not going to waste this. If I get a run, I'm going to go for it. So I went for it. We had a bit of contact, so I almost lost P2. But I can't be disappointed with that. You know, I've got to go for it, and it didn't come off, but at least gave it a go.
Well, I mean, next time out for this series, we're heading to Alton Park Island. It's a notorious track for being difficult to overtake at. So is that a case of bang it on pole, get a race 1 win, and then just get whatever points you can again?
Yeah, I think so. It was, to be honest, kind of the same here. I think you can maybe overtake if you're a lot quicker and the person in front doesn't have slipstream at this track. So I was very much in the mindset of win the first race, and then if 6th is not a bad result in race 2 of the reverse grid. Anything better is a success. So when people have bad starts and I gained a couple places straight away, that I was like P3, I'm happy with that. Luckily it ended up being P2, so even better. Alton Park I think will be a very similar story, all about qualifying on race 1. So fingers crossed I can get another pole position there. And then race 2, I don't really have to stress too much. I can just hold position.
Well, congratulations on a great weekend for yourself. I would say go and relax, but you've got next weekend's Porsche Esports Super Cup to worry about. So all the best for that, Sebastian.
Thank you very much.
There we go. That was Sebastian Job joining us in the booth here, and we're going to be speaking to Luke McKeown as well, who's going to jump into the commentary booth here. And Luke, qualified 4th for the opening race, finished on the podium, and then get yourself a race win. But my goodness, you had to fight for that race win, didn't you?
Yeah, it was a really good race, really tough. Kind of didn't look after my front tyres very well, trying to put pressure on Josh for most of the race. So once I got past, and then I was trying to hope that I would get past Josh and then Seb would stay behind, but it didn't work out like that. So I was basically under pressure for the last half of the race with no front tyres, but managed to hold on. It was a really good race, really hard racing, but fair. But yeah, really happy.
And of course, it's a lot of points in the championship for yourself, but what's it going to take to try and get one over Sebastian here at the next round at Alton Park? Because he just seems to be on some really good form at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it is so difficult to try and, like, I've had a really good round and I've still probably lost points. Like, it's the same in the whole start of this year. He's just been really fast. Yeah, I know we can do it, like, as a team. I know we can get better results and beat them, but yeah, it's going to be tough.
And of course, you've got the Porsche Esports Super Cup as well next week. How has it been separating the time between that series and this one? Does it help that you are using the same car for both series?
Yeah, it definitely helps. This is fixed setup as well with short tracks, so I'm spending 80% of the time practicing for Pesk, and then jumping on this because it doesn't take too long to get up to pace. Luckily, I've got Pete helps a lot during the week, which was really, really helpful. I wouldn't have been able to be in this situation if he hadn't done the prep during the week. So yeah, I'm really thankful for it.
Well, Luke, go away, and congratulations for a race win here in the second race of today.
Thank you.
There we go, David. So that's your interviews that we're getting, but it's always interesting to hear from the drivers to get their thoughts, and when you've got two drivers that are both splitting their time between two series, it's always interesting to see how that affects them in those two series.
Absolutely, and it's great, isn't it, now to, if you like, see how Luke McEwen's going to be able to build on that, because nothing helps like confidence with a race win under your belt. You know you can do it now. He's proved that. So is this now the start of a good run, if you like, of wins out of Luke McEwen? The same, I suspect, in AM as well, with Crofton Woodhatch having proved that he's got the pace now. And there are 2 new winners in the championship, Luke McEwen and Crofton Woodhatch. Sebastian Jobe and Luke Pennington, though, remain the drivers to beat within their respective classes, with both of them taking the other race win this weekend. The next stop for the championship is going to be Alton Park, the Island Bend circuit, February the 25th. We will be in action for races 7 and 8 of the Rafa Racing Club Porsche Carrera Cup GB Esports Championship. 2 o'clock British time is when qualifying will get underway, and the championship story will continue in Cheshire in 2 weeks' time. Thanks for your company today. We'll see you in 2 weeks then at Alton Park. For now, from Paul Smith and David Addison, it's goodbye.